As we bleisure our way through, meet the airline that's riding on the back of this emerging lifestyle, taking to the sea and the skies. A pristine island paradise, both holiday home and family business, and this could be yours. First, what do we call this mixing of business with leisure? Blend the two together, quite literally, you get bleisure. Don't grab the dictionary just yet. The word bleisure's not there. It's one word that lexicographers at Merriam-Webster are still monitoring.
This dictionary really, it's very heavy.
On a library quiet floor in Western Massachusetts, the famed American English Dictionary is written, revised, and amended again and again.
Our primary job here is to write dictionary definitions. And so we spend a lot of time examining evidence of words in use, reading through what we call citations. They are excerpts that are taken from books, magazines, journals, menus, matchbook covers. I mean, they can be really anything, certainly lots of electronic information also.
We know what business is, and we certainly know all about leisure. Just what is bleisure?
Bleisure, or bleisure, is a word that relates to travel that is connected to a business trip of some kind. Leisure time that you attach to a business trip. It's an adjective, and it typically modifies a person, like bleisure traveler, bleisure travel. The meaning of the word is really still settling out. It's clearly a term that was coined by the travel and hospitality industry to name a phenomenon that they wanted to encourage. It certainly makes sense to a lot of people who are traveling for business to find themselves in an exotic location and think, wow, I should stay a few more days here.
So, it's an appealing trend with a rather lackluster mash-up word.
These are called blend words. They're also called portmanteaus. It's not a new phenomenon as far as word coinage goes, but bleisure is one of the newest of these. Another one that is currently defined, it really just met our criteria for entry, is the word athleisure. So the official definition of athleisure is casual clothing designed to be worn both for exercising and for general use.
Blended words. If athleisure is in the dictionary, why isn't bleisure?
Well, we just don't have enough evidence of it in use. This is a word that we're monitoring. We're monitoring many, many, many words all the time, and sometimes we keep track of them for 50 years and they never get entered.
To go further with this, we must do a bit of digging into the archives of wordsmiths past to see the evidence that created the case for leisure.
So these are our consolidated citation files. This is the kind of material that all our definitions are based on. Now this is interesting. Here is a word that has never made the cut. It is the word leisuals. These are apparently shoes that are leisure shoes and casual shoes, I guess.
Will bleisure make it?
I think the word has a good chance of surviving.
Whether in the dictionary or not, I'm on board to enjoy my own bleisure. Bleisure means different things to different people. Clearly no one minds if you take a few hours by the hotel pool. But what about bringing a partner with you on a business trip? Or taking those extra days when work is over? Business obviously comes first. And now you need to make sure bleisure doesn't get in the way. We need rules, guidelines, ethics. Professor Kwame Anthony Appiah more or less teaches the Honor Code at NYU Law School. He's a writer for the New York Times' ethics column and answers all of our dilemmas of conscience, usually with the response you do not want to hear. I'm hoping the good professor tells me my latest bleisure trip to the Philippines isn't completely morally unsound. So on this Bleisure question, it's a trend that is growing. Professor, have you been guilty of this?
I've done it. I don't think I feel that I did it in a way that makes it appropriate to refer to myself as being guilty of anything. The fact that I've been invited somewhere interesting and we pay the difference and we have a good time on the edges of the whatever the legitimate activity is.
So let's go through some scenarios. I decide to add a few extra days to the work trip. I pay, obviously, the extra nights in the hotel, but the company has paid my ticket. Therefore, effectively, I'm having a relatively free holiday. Any problems?
I think the simplest way to think about it is to ask yourself, if I tell the company, if I tell my boss what I'm doing, will he or she think it's okay? And basically, then you think, if I were the boss, what would I think? And if you can answer that question in the affirmative, you can say, yes, if I were the boss, I would think that was fine. Then you go ahead.
Even if logistically and logically it makes sense and isn't costing the company a penny piece more, it often creates a feeling that I'm getting something for nothing. Bad feeling.
Yes. Well, I think those kinds of feelings like sour grapes, are an ethical problem. If you do have a good work relationship, then you're going to be able to discuss it. You're going to get an employee who's happy because he or she is not only doing your work, but also having a fine time, him or herself, and isn't that a sort of win-win situation?
You've decided that your partner's going to come with you on this trip. You're going to pay the ticket, obviously, but your partner will get a free hotel and effectively is getting a free holiday. Is that a problem?
You begin to get things that I think you ought to discuss with your supervisor, because now you're in a different psychological condition from the condition you'd have been in if you were doing the job in the ordinary way, which is that you're there focused on their work, on their business.
If you're senior management and you know Bleisure is becoming more prevalent, would you urge companies to put in place policies so that there's no confusion, people know where they stand?
That's another aspect of what I was calling transparency. You need to be clear about what your expectations are about these things and to have clear rules, including a rule about whether you want to be told about it. I said you should tell your boss, but if your boss has said, look, if you meet these conditions, you don't need to tell me, you don't need to tell them. And if there are any blurry cases, they should come and ask.